Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words, where we talk about words you hear in the news.
This word is about a soccer game and war in Myanmar, formerly known as Burma.
Sporadic.
In the weeks since the game was played, reports of sporadic fighting in Karen State and other parts of the country have marred the peace-building process.
The word sporadic means something is happening every now and then. One cannot predict when it will happen.
It also does not happen in an orderly way. In stories about war like this one, sporadic may describe weapons fire.
Now, the next time you hear sporadic, you will know what this news word means. And you can use it in a conversation. Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words.
You might have heard this word used in stories about countries and their money. It often is used to talk about financial matters.
In a bid to stabilize Ukraine's economy, IMF Mission Chief Nikolai Georgiev says the world's lending body has agreed to provide up to $18 billion in emergency aid, not counting the additional loan guarantees.
Stabilize means to make something stop from changing. Many times, it means trying to keep something from becoming worse or to fix it.
The word stabilize is also used in medicine. When patients are very sick, doctors will work to stabilize them, to prevent them from getting worse.
So, the next time you hear the word stabilize, you will know what this news word means.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words, where we talk about words in the news. This is a word you might have heard in a business story.
Last holiday season, it was Macy's and Best Buy, retailers promising delivery in 1 hour with a new service called eBay Now. A year later, eBay's expanded the service and competitors are cropping up. The latest, a San Francisco startup called 6 Doors.
Startup means to set something in motion. It often is used in business stories about new companies.
A business that is just beginning and trying to establish itself is a startup.
So, the next time you hear the word startup, you will know what this news word means. For more news words, visit our website, learningenglish.voanews.com.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words. Here is a word that is often used in stories about military or foreign policy.
Strategy.
For days, U.S. officials have talked about expanding airstrikes already happening in Iraq to Syria. It appears, however, that such action may be delayed, with President Obama on Thursday telling reporters he is still developing a strategy to deal with militants of the Islamic State, or ISIL.
A strategy is a plan to reach a major goal. It can relate to a military operation, a foreign policy, or even a business plan.
It takes time to complete. It is not about acting quickly. So the next time you hear the word strategy,
you will know what this news word means.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words.
When the Chinese and American presidents met in the U.S. state of California, they had a private place to talk. Listen for the word in this story that means meeting.
Summit.
I think that's why it's set up in such an informal and a private setting, unlike the previous couple of summits between Chinese leaders and American leaders.
Summit means a meeting of high-level leaders. World leaders often meet at summits to try to solve problems. Now, when you hear the word summit,
your English will be good enough to know what this news word means. Welcome to Voice of America's News Words. where we teach you about words in the news. Sometimes hearing the word court can be confusing. Which court is this?
The Supreme Court kept in place a controversial provision that requires police to check the immigration status of those they stop for other reasons, if police suspect they are in the country illegally.
Supreme means top or highest, and America's Supreme Court is just that, the nation's highest court. 9 justices sit on the court, and they make decisions on major issues that affect the country.
Now, when you hear the words Supreme Court, your English will be good enough to know what these news words mean.
For more news words, visit our website at learningenglish.voanews.com.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words.
This word is used mostly in medical stories.
Symptoms.
Without specific drugs or a vaccine for Ebola, the only thing doctors can do for those suffering from this disease is treat their symptoms and hope their bodies can fight the virus.
A symptom is a sign that a person is sick. It is evidence of a change in a person's body or mind.
And it means the person could have a disease. Some symptoms include pain, headache, a temperature, and chills.
Now, the next time you hear the word symptoms, your American English will be good enough to know what this news word means.
And remember to check out our website, learningenglish.voanews.com.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words.
Sharon Shattuck's documentary, From This Day Forward, is about her parents. Listen for the word
transgender.
Being transgender is like walking around silently crying unless you have an opportunity to express yourself.
Transgender is about how a person identifies his or her gender, being male or female.
Transgender people have a different gender identity than how they were born.
For example, a person born a man may feel he is a woman.
Now, when you hear the word transgender, you will know what this news word means.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words, where we teach you about words in the news.
This word comes from a story about the Middle East peace process, and it means difficult times.
Yadlin says turmoil in Syria, Egypt, Libya, and other parts of the region has overshadowed the peace process, and that analysts say is likely to be the case for some time.
Turmoil is when things are not under control.
The word turmoil can be about political, economic, or personal issues. Often, as in our news story, it means there is conflict or war.
So, the next time you hear turmoil, you will understand what this news word means.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words.
This word is one you hear in stories about troubled places. The story is about a man who protested the lack of freedom in his homeland, Myanmar.
Turmoil.
For Myanmar, the coming year will test whether critics like Gambira have reason for pessimism, or whether authorities can conduct a free and fair election without turmoil in the streets.
The word turmoil means something is mixed up and lacks order.
If there is turmoil in the streets, it means there could be protesters and violence, and police cannot control the crowds.
Now, when you hear the word turmoil, your American English will be good enough to know what this news word means. Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words. Here are 2 words you might hear in stories about immigration.
Undocumented workers.
We need to bring the 11 million undocumented workers that are currently in this country out of the shadows. Make them productive players in the U.S. economy.
Undocumented workers. Undocumented workers are people who are working without a visa or permanent residence papers.
Undocumented workers also are called illegal aliens because they are in the country illegally.
They are at the center of the immigration debate in America. Now, the next time you hear the phrase undocumented workers, you will know what these news words mean.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words.
Does this word mean something good has happened?
Unleashed.
The president is sending Secretary of State John Kerry to the Middle East to help build a coalition to defeat the militants who have unleashed a wave of violence that has included attacks on Iraq's Christians and other minority communities, and recently the videotaped killing of American journalist James Foley.
Unleashed means to let something very powerful happen quickly.
It is like taking a leash off a dog and letting it attack someone. In our story, the militants unleashed or set off a wave of violence.
Usually, unleashed does not mean something good.
So, the next time you hear the word unleashed, you will know what this news word means.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words.
This word comes from a story about negotiations and Iran's nuclear program.
There would be 6 months of negotiations on more extensive limits on Iran's nuclear program and potentially an end to the devastating sanctions. Iran says it does not want to build a nuclear bomb, but the UN Security Council wants agreed limits and strict verification.
The word verification means to confirm something, to make sure it is true.
In this story, the United Nations wants to confirm that Iran does not have nuclear weapons. Inspectors could provide verification about Iran's nuclear programs.
Now, the next time you hear verification, you will know what this news word means.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words.
Listen to U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. He is talking about the breakdown of the peace talks between the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Viable.
The status quo between the Israelis and the Palestinians is not sustainable. And the alternatives to peace are neither acceptable nor viable.
Viable means something can succeed or continue. Kerry is saying that only peace is acceptable and will succeed there.
Viable is also used when talking about a living thing, especially a fetus. Viable means it can develop and live.
So the next time you hear the word viable, you will know what this news word means.